Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. My name is Ron Robin. I am the president of the University of Haifa, and I'm delighted to be with you and introduce today's discussion on mobilizing change through inter-religious collaboration. Instead of the perfunctory introductory remarks, I actually would like to share with you some good tidings, which I think are indicative of today's work that we'll be doing here today and of the University of Haifa. A few days ago, we were informed that the University of Haifa has a new Rhodes Scholar. His name is Harun Afghana. He's a Muslim Circassian from the Galilee who will soon travel to Oxford to begin a PhD in experimental psychology. He's a graduate of Haifa, having completed a BA in psychology and English literature. He is currently studying towards an MA in experimental psychology. And I think this is very indicative of who we are as a university and who we are as a city. You may know that Haifa is home to 16 different religious sects. It is a holy city. It is the city where the Baha'i religion considers to be its most holiest site. We are proud to be the home to many, many different communities. And I can say that this particular event, where a Muslim Circassian receives the highest award that an undergraduate can receive anywhere in the world, is a ratification, is proof of concept of who we are. We are the creators of an embracive and inclusive Israeli society where everybody belongs. And it is that point, proof of concept, that I think comes to life in today's event. This lab, the sponsors of today's event, is innovative, collaborative, and embracive of all religions in the Holy Land and beyond. We are committed, of course, to growth and development of the lab. And we are sure that today's event will be one of those kickoff events that will allow us to expand beyond where we are right now. So it's with great pleasure that I would like to introduce a generous friend and a committed partner, Steve Sarawitz. Steve, as many of you know, is the founder and chairman of Pelocity, the founder of the Wayfarer Foundation, a distinguished member of the Baha'i community, and a great friend of the university. Steve, we are very grateful that you are with us today, and I pass on the baton to you.
Thank you so much, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today, supporting the University of Haifa and the Haifa Lab for Religious Studies. Before I introduce our esteemed panel, let me share a few words about my own personal connection to Haifa. First of all, as you mentioned, I'm a Baha'i, and the Baha'i World Center is located right in Haifa. And you can see behind me is a picture of the Baha'i Gardens, the Shrine of the Bab, and I actually made the first movie about the Bab. I also am from a Jewish background. So I spent 49 years as a Jew, and my great uncle fought with Menachem Begin. He fought side by side with him for the independence of Israel. So I have deep connections to Israel. I've been to Haifa 14 times. There's not much about Haifa that I don't love, not just the Baha'i Gardens, but the people of all faiths. And I'm really just honored to be in this room and among the people here. My personal connection to this effort, this lab for religious studies, is that I think it's really important that people of different religions get together and talk to each other, because I think we need to understand at the heart our oneness, that there's really only one God. There's not a Muslim God or a Christian God, or Jewish God or a Baha'i God, that we all are children of the same God, and that God loves us all as his children. And to that end, we are all brothers and sisters. And so I'm really honored to be here among this esteemed group of leaders who share my views, who've come together in peace and harmony to represent their communities. And I'd like at this point to talk about this wonderful group that we've assembled. We're incredibly lucky to have assembled such a respected and celebrated representatives of an intricate tapestry that really makes Haifa so unique. Our panel comprises thought, community, and religious leaders offering their own individual experiences and observations to help build understanding and cohesion. I would like to introduce you first to Rabbi Na'ama Dafni-KELLEN from Congregation Or Hadash. Next, Archbishop Yusef Mata of the Greek-Melkite Catholic of Byzantine Rite. Maud Audeh, the General Secretary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And Dr. Oriel Simonson, the founder and leader of the Haifa Laboratory for Religious Studies at the University of Haifa, really the person who's inspired us all being here. And our moderator today is Dr. MOUNA MAROUN, professor in the University of Haifa's Sagol Department of Neurobiology and head of the public board for the Haifa Laboratory for Religious Studies. And lastly, I'd like everyone to invite it to stay tuned for a special announcement directly following this important discussion. So without further ado, Dr. Maroon, I'd like to turn things over to you.
Thank you very much, Steve. So indeed, my name is MOUNA MAROUN. I'm a professor in neurobiology at the Haifa University. As an Arab, Christian, Maronite, and Israeli, I feel very privileged to moderate this panel, to hear your thoughts and insight, especially during these festive days of December, where we in Haifa celebrate the Feast of Holidays, during which we all gather as Jews, Muslims, and Christians together in harmony. The University of Haifa represents this spirit. For our audience, we have an option of Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and you can send your questions and this will be answered. I would like to remind our distinguished speakers that we are limited in time and you have maximum of 2 minutes to make sure that we are able to hear from everyone. So please do your best to stay within time limit. So we will start with the first question. Earlier this year, we saw disturbing turmoil between Jews and Arabs in mixed cities, Haifa included. How do you explain that sudden burst of violence? And what can be done to mend bridges between these communities? And I would like to start with His Excellency, Archbishop Sayyidina Yusef Mata. Sayyidina.
Thank you, Dr. Mouna. First of all, I'm pleased to be here in this meeting, interreligious meeting, that it's my concern to be even a membership of this laboratory. I think that this issue is not created from nothing. It's a history that unfortunately was in Haifa, but the main idea is the differences between the two communities, the Arabs and the Jews. We know that Haifa, in some places, there's a common life, but the difference is the unknown about the other side is one of the reasons to this violence. Another issue, it's the facilities that could be an instrument for collaboration. This instrument is not. It wasn't even in the Arab quarters, let's see, and we can say that these facilities could be a way of collaboration, a way of knowing the other side and understanding the other side. But the main idea is to have this knowledge about the other side, that we can understand each other and to collaborate with each other for the benefit of everyone in Haifa. I think these are the two reasons. I don't have the facilities to know the other parties, and the instruments of collaboration is not there. So these are the two reasons. The third reason is that many of these young boys, let's say, they comes from outside of Haifa, so they didn't know this social environment of Haifa, so they have this issue of violence and everything. This is my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi Na'ama Dafni-KELLEN. What are your thoughts about it?
First of all, shalom, and what a pleasure and an honor to be here. I would like to add to the Archbishop's words. I think I am not an academic. I'm a rabbi, so I can speak about despair and about hope. I can speak about isolation and about feeling that you belong. And I think that we cannot disconnect COVID from the upsurge of violence that we saw. I think that COVID made people scared, made people be in financial hardship. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, especially young people, these are very important formative years and they are stuck. It's really difficult to know what's going to happen. And these are very good background for violence. When you're scared, when you feel isolated, when you feel that no one is seeing you, when you feel that there's no hope, that there's uncertainty. And I think that's part of it. Obviously, that is not the whole story, but I think that, at least in my analysis, the loneliness and the despair and the fear played a very big part, because we know through history, when you're scared, you need to blame someone. That's how it works. And therefore, I think that part of what we need to do is to do exactly the opposite, is to bring hope, is to bring connection, is to create a sense of belonging, a deep sense of belonging. And if I may add, if we had maybe more female voices present, maybe we would have a little bit of a different situation, since, how would I say, there's a overrepresentation in the violence among young males. And I think that if we could have more female voices, then maybe things will go into a different, people will have a different perspective that is very religious, that embraces life, that sees life as sacred, that knows that hope is something that we can never give up on, because that's how we live our life. So I hope that what we're doing today is relighting hope and kindness and personal connections as a way to make sure this never happens again.
Thank you very much. It was very inspiring, and I must tell you that in my lab we are working on the effects of social isolation on the brain. So I think we can chat later on about it. So Mr. Muad, thank you very much. Mr. Muad Audi, what are your thoughts?
I think I want to be optimistic about what happened. I think maybe I have another view about what happened in May. In a sense that, as a person who I think was not involved in what happened, but I think to see the thing what happened in Haifa, I can tell you, like, for sure that maybe 70 to 80% of what happened, they were not people from Haifa. So yeah, they were part of, we can talk about 10, 20% from people of Haifa, but the majority of the incidents that happened in Haifa did not occur from any Haifanian. Especially when I see people like throwing stones on Beit el-Karma or Beit Geffen, I don't think any Arab or Jew will do that, who is actually from Haifa. So I think it's in a sense, what happened here, what we did in our small town, our small, like, laboratory here in Kabir, and that the first thing that we did, we had a mutual neighborhood watch. We had a Jewish and Arabs, we gathered together and we said, okay, we want to protect our neighborhood. We want to, and actually we did that for at least a week of having cars actually going patrolling around the town, and even Carmel Center and different areas around our town. And I think that's what happened. And we have to learn from what happened, in May. It's to have an what do you call it, an honest dialogue, why and how we can fix it, even with the 10-20% of the Arabs who did actually involved in these things, Arabs and Jews. But as what Rabbi Na'ama said about the isolation and all this employment, financial, all this stuff, there are reasons for people frustration, and we can see that. And I think that's, but still, I don't think it's a reason to do anything like bad towards each other. But I think that's for me. I have a optimistic view for what happened. And I think we worked hard. Even I think what happened. I saw the mayor of Haifa. They invite us all in. After the second day or third day of this happened, and all of us were there. Like at that, we said we're meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So I think we had around between 15 to 20 religious people, leaders. They were in the city hall talking about what we will do to fix that. And I think that's what only happens in Haifa. I think that's the cooperation or collaboration and that we have. I think is a solid. I think it's especially with religious, leadership in Haifa. So for me to be in Na'ama's synagogue and Na'ama being in my mosque, and our bishop, Yusuf Matta was in our, Kabir, and we were there. Like we have this. I think it's, for me, I'm optimistic that we have a good religious people in Haifa, and we can do a lot to make it better.
Thank you very much. This is also very inspiring, and I think this represents the Haifa, as you said, the Haifa spirit. So now we will move to Dr. Uriel Simonson as an academic living in Haifa and chairing the Lab of Interreligion Dialogue. What are your analysis? What is your analysis?
Well, I don't think I have much anything surprising or new to say in addition to what already has been said, but I think I would sort of sharpen it and say that this is not the particular case of Haifa. It's the case of mixed cities in Israel, and by the way, in other parts of the globe. And life of different communities coming from different religious and cultural backgrounds are often characterized by high measures of mutual ignorance. People tend to show less interest in the other. And this kind of ignorance often leads to the lack of trust and fear on all sides involved. And these are, of course, the ingredients of a wonderful recipe for violence. So I think that's really summing it up. And what we need to do really is to create, not to mend. I don't think we need to mend bridges. We need to create bridges because these are very much lacking at the moment. And these are best constructed through collaboration, through joint action, through people working together towards shared goals. And if you take the big titles off Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and so forth, you realize there's so much common denominators. There's so much that these religions share, and there's so much common basis on which we can all operate. And so what we need to do is take those shared values and use them as a basis for common work. Through common work, through collaboration, we can create those bridges, and we can lower the fumes, if you like. And at the same time, I would very much confirm what has already been said about the unique case of Haifa. Haifa offers, I think, from my perspective, a unique scenario in the sense that not only was the violence that was introduced here in the city coming from outside it, but also shortly afterwards, the spontaneous responses that came from throughout the city, civilians of all backgrounds and flags reacted in a way that wanted to say, this is not going to happen here. We're not going to have it. You found it in hospitals, you found it in cultural centers, you found it in schools, you found it in neighborhoods. You had these wonderful spontaneous responses of women and men, children and elderly saying, this is not going to happen in Haifa. And that's why Haifa can be such a wonderful leader in moving towards that change that we want to find in other mixed cities.
Thank you very much, Uriel. And I would like to add that in the Bible, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, if I'm not mistaken, there are the word fear appeared like 365 times. And I think if we will take and say that fear you not, what was said by Jesus. And I think Haifa could be an example of fear you not, of being living together in great harmony. So thank you very much. And I will move to the second question in continuation to the first one. So what, in your view, is the biggest challenge facing these mixed cities in Israel? And I would like to start with Mr. Muad Audi, please. Muad, you are on mute.
I think the challenge we're facing, I think all of us, it's the involvement of the youth in all these activities. I think that's what we are missing. I think if we have more youth, I think as adults we agree and we get together in different active activities. I think, but I would like to have a collaborate between the youth in our Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, Jews. I think in that's what, because we have to think about the future and not about us. We are I think in a good age. I think we have to look at the people who will hold this city and who will hold us as communities in the future. And I think I'm concerned about the youth, of all the youth in this city, that we have as people have positions in any, like in our congregations, in our synagogue, mosque, churches, and Baha'i. I think we have to do some programs for the youth to get together. So I think that will help. Help that I think we can create a safe environment for these people for the future. That it's good to see us. I think it's when we go together. When I go like to an Amma synagogue, it's good and it's nice, and to see a person with a religious hat, Muslim, going inside the synagogue and talk about Sukkot or Pesach, whatever. It's good, but I think for me, we have to work on the challenge that I see in Haifa. It's the youth that we have to get them to get together more and more.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi Na'ama. Do you share the same ideas with Muad?
I do, and I think that we need to remember that kids are born to a certain reality. I think Muad and I are in the same wonderful age, give or take. And we were brought up with the ability, or with the dream of peace being very present. And I think I have kids, and I think that it takes intention to get to know other people, other religions, and you need to be very intentional for people to be hopeful if all they know is a very different reality. But I want to add to the youth another challenge. And there's this very famous story by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who talks about people who are traveling in a boat. And one of them is digging a hole underneath his seat. And everyone is screaming, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he says, "What do you care? I'm only digging the hole under my seat." And I think that the biggest challenge is to all of us realize we are literally in the same boat. It's not me versus you. It's not I'm going out of my way to meet the other. It's this basic notion. It's our city. We are in the same city. We are in the same boat. I like some of my neighbors. I don't like some of my neighbors. It has nothing to do with their religiosity, by the way, but I'm with them. I can't, what can I do? If a pipe bursts, we all suffer, right? If the air is polluted, we all suffer. The basic understanding that we are in the same boat, I think is slightly lacking, mostly in youth, but not just. And I think that a lot of what we need to do is to develop a deep sense of us. It's our city, it's our homes, it's our future, and we're in this together. And I hope, and I'm very optimistic that we can live up to the challenge.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina Yusuf Matta. What can you add to this?
Okay, first of all, thank you for these encouraging ideas. I think the main challenge is to rebuild the trust between the two communities, not just in Haifa, but in other places, such as Nof HaGalil, near Nazareth, such as Ramli, Lod. So there's Beersheba, there's lots of communities there. So living together is the main idea, to give the opportunity to the groups, not just the youth. Yes, the youth is more important, but I think we can start from the beginning, from the educational system, about even the young people, the 4th, the 5th grade. We can give them the opportunity to know each other, to know the traditions of each other, to give them the opportunity to meet other communities, to meet the other, to see him, because maybe in his mind this the picture of this Arab or this Christian or this I don't know, it's not clearly let's say clearly known. So if he has the opportunity to meet him, to even to hear his voice, to hear what he has to give or to talk. So this is one of the opportunity to have this collaboration and knowing each other, rebuilding the trust between the two parties. I think this is the main idea. Yes, we are in the same boat. Tomorrow we will wake up and we can find all of us in the same boat. So we have to search for a new vision, new opportunities to this collaboration can be put in practice in our daily life.
This is, thank you very much. This is a very good idea. Putting us in the boat, in the same boat, it gives an opportunity to know the other, to know us very well. So I think with this, Dr. Oriel Simonson, what would you like to say?
So I want to move to maybe a more practical level of things, and first of all point to the fact that what characterizes many aspects of our life in this country and maybe in this region is often the lack of plan and vision. I mean, there's so much leadership and there are so many good ideas and there are so many local projects, but these don't add up. They often don't add up. And this is partially because we tend to avoid thinking forward, thinking ahead, and we leave too much for coincidence, for things to happen by coincidence. And that's part of our culture, and there's some charm in it as well. But I think we're paying the price of the lack of plan. And I think that we should start thinking big, thinking how do we take these beautiful energies that are in so many parts of the country and in this city, in congregations, communities, organizations, and so forth and so on. How do we add them up into something more meaningful that can eventually give a real fight to the challenge of life together? And so, for example, the laboratory, which I have to speak for, and I want to speak for, is initiating these kind of projects. And one of them, for instance, is in a few months' time, we will be sitting together, leaders from different religious communities, from different nonprofit organizations, social activists, professionals, academics, and we will reflect on last May, and we reflect on the violence that occurred, what led to it, how do we deal with it, and what should we do in the future in order to tackle it and prevent it, in fact. So this is the type of leadership that we want to offer. This is the type of larger picture that we want to incorporate all these very wonderful ideas and successful projects into a bigger sum. And that will be partially an answer to the challenge.
Thank you very much. And I will move to the third question. And we know from the academia that diversity is a key for excellence. This is my motto, this is my logo. So we know that Haifa is one of the most religiously diverse cities in the world, in which diversity is not an obstacle, but an advantage. So do you agree or disagree? And can you tell me why? And Rabbi Na'ama, please.
Of course, I agree. And I think that if you ask, I was born in Haifa, raised in Haifa, that there's two things that we're very proud of. One is the Baha'i Gardens, not that we had anything to do with that. And the other is the fact that we live in a shared city. And I think people who are Haifa'im, people who being a Haifa resident is an important part of their identity, that is what we are proud of. It has been going for many, many years. It's not perfect, but I think it's an important part of the narrative, of the story that we tell about our city. But I think that narratives, of course, they're very, very important, but they're not enough. Because sometimes we can fall in love with a story and make it a fairy tale and forget that there's real life and there's real obstacles and there's real challenges that happen on a daily basis. And I think that the beauty of the city and what we need to do is to make sure that we're not just proud of living together, but that we actually do live together. And I think that we're talking about unity and being one, but there's two kinds of being one. There's a very shallow being one. And each of the very honorable people on this panel have been in the panels where we talk about religion, and it seems like all religions are the same, and everything we ever did as religions is just to promote peace and harmony, which is very nice, but not really how history works. And there's a deep sense of oneness after we know each other, and we talk about the difficult things, and we talk about the deep insights and beliefs of our religions, then we realize we are the same, but not on a shallow level, but on a deeper level. And I think that we have the narrative, which is beautiful. That's why I raise my kids here. We have the narrative of celebrating the shared existence, of celebrating the diversity, but let's not fall in love just with a story. We have to translate it into daily actions.
Thank you, Moad. What do you say about being an advantage or a disadvantage?
It's impossible. It is. I think it's a good advantage. I think it's healthy. It's healthy to have for every society to have people from different backgrounds in a place that I think what the Baha'i talks about, a garden with different flowers and different colors of flowers. And I think it will be boring if we have one color in one garden. And I think that's what I think is an advantage, but we have to, be careful to maintain it also, as with Rabbi Na'ama talks about, we have to work hard to maintain this. And I think also all the time when people come to our center, I said, guys, welcome to the holy city. I think for us, because for me, a holy place is not about the stones, it's about the people. And I think Haifa people make it holy, and not the stones that we have. We don't have holy stones, but I think that what we, in a sense, I think, in my perspective, I think it's an advantage for us in Haifa that we have all these people, all this, different, and we live. And I think I bring, because of us, my work with youth and about mediation, workshops and conflict resolution workshops, and then I bring them to Haifa. And kids from Al-Fahim and Kfar Qara and different, Baqa and all this, to bring them to see how we can live together. It's fun, and to feel safe to go wherever you want. I go to the church and enter the church and go to the mosque and go to synagogue and meet everybody and feel free. And I think that's what we're different. Yes. And kids were amazed, like, oh, you can go inside. Yeah, I can go in. Yeah, I can go in a church. Yeah, freely. Nobody will say no and don't. I can go. Yeah. And I'll meet the priest and I, hug him and, and that's what we do. And I think is very advantage. We can work on, hard to maintain that, but I think it's possible as an advantage, and I think it's us who have to maintain this.
Thank you very much, Muad. If I remember, so in the Holy Quran, لا فضل على عربي على أعجمي إلا بالتقوى. So I think, and if I will go to Jesus when he chose his disciples, I think they were completely diverse and they were not similar. And I think we know what happened later on. So Sayyidna, what do you think about it?
Sure, Muna. I will give you my permission to preach in the churches. So it's it's very good. This is one of the opportunity that I'm talking about. Yes, sure. Haifa is an advantage for all of us. Okay, it's a unique place that we can see the diversity in the unity. Okay, unity of the common dialogue, common issues that we all could be involved for the benefit of all of us in the city. Okay, when I'm going up to my archbishopric place, I see Ben Gurion, okay, Ben Gurion, the street of Ben Gurion. There's lots of shops, restaurants, but lots of people, diversity of people, Jews, Muslim, Christian, even Baha'is, Ahmadis, from Haifa, from out of Haifa. They are all there to see the beauty of this street. Yes, with all the lights, with all the menorah and the Christmas tree. I think that 2 years ago there was even the fanus, okay, for the Muslims. So this is the diversity, but the diversity that search a common issues, human common issues, because we are trying to live together, to understand each other. I think what Muad said, that entering in church or synagogue, this is the main idea, to have this testimony of our beliefs, our way of prayers. Even with the diversity of us, we can be one, praying the one God. Okay, as you said, Muna, even Jesus, knowing the difficulties of his disciples, but he chose them. Okay, and he knows that this diversity will give him a strength to continue his preaching about the salvation of the people, the human race. So this is my idea.
Thank you very much, Uriel. I feel that you and me are very lucky, also maybe Ron also, because we are not only diverse and living in Haifa, we are also at the Haifa University, which is known for its diversity, and including Arabs, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and from not only students, but also staff. So what is your thoughts about it?
Well, first of all, I couldn't agree more with what you've said. I think we are very fortunate to be living in Haifa and to be working in an academic institution that is so closely connected to this city and to its diversity. And from an academic perspective, this is a treasure. Of course, something that we as historians and anthropologists, sociologists, legalists, economists, and so forth and so on, we can benefit immensely. But beyond the academic issue, this diversity, I agree with all the panelists. How could it be considered an obstacle? If anything, it's a treasure. It's a treasure that Haifa has been blessed, by which Haifa has been blessed. It allows us to raise our children in a complex environment where there is all kinds of peoples and tastes and colors and experiences and traditions. To raise them in a way that they will enter the world with an appreciation for variety, where there are no dichotomies of good and bad, of right and wrong, but in fact there are complex answers to complex questions. And this diversity is an asset. It's an educational asset, it's a cultural asset. And I think as academics who are used to be working or exercising a complex perspective towards our objects of inquiry, we can appreciate this diversity, and we feel indeed fortunate that we see it in our city. And so this diversity should be harnessed. It should be harnessed for offering an alternative to a reality of dichotomy, of separation, not to mention of bigotry. And I see this, I've seen this today, and I've seen it a month ago when we have these panels getting religious leaders sitting together around the same table, talking about a variety of social and civil issues. Today, we've spoken about how to educate towards religious pluralism in our educational systems. What is the recipe for efficient or effective education that will embrace variety, diversity, and people coming from Ahmadiyya, Islamic Sunni, from Rabbinic Orthodox Jews, Catholics. You could tell they look different. They come from different backgrounds, but they almost spoke the same language. They spoke the same language when it came to talk about harnessing diversity and implementing that in our educational systems, and that's yet another proof that we're operating in the right direction. We're harnessing that diversity to do something very different from what we've been used to.
Okay, thank you very much, and I will move to the next question. And it will be addressed by, we will start with you, Uriel. The Religious Lab strives to promote collaboration among religious communities. So how do you see the lab being an agent of change in the region?
So to begin with, I would like to remind us all that ever since monotheism has been introduced on this planet, religious communities have been offering its members far more than just spiritual and liturgical services. It has been offering them almost a total or a complete setting that serves their material needs, their educational needs, their legal needs. And as such, religious communities to this very day are far more than just spiritual entities. And if we consider religious communities to be more than that, to be social settings, then we can start thinking about religious communities as very effective units for mobilizing change. They offer fascinating opportunities with shared ideals, with that facilitate joint work, collaborative work. And for instance, we want to take advantage of these shared ideals and of these mechanism of religious communities with a project that we've recently launched called Religion and Social Change, in which we bring in academics who work with religious communities and focus on a social project. And as they focus on that social project, they not only tackle poverty or gaps in education or gender inequality or environmental issues, but they also win, as they go forward, that collaboration that is the necessary glue for creating those bridges that you earlier mentioned. And it is through religious communities that we can do things that in other frameworks we can't. This is how we see it, and religious communities are in fact are key and instrumental for mobilizing that change.
Thank you, Sayed. Now, what do you think about that? Can this lab promote collaboration among the religious communities?
Yes, I had this conversation with Uriel 2 months ago about this lab, and he asked me if I could join this lab to be part of it and to collaborate with the University of Haifa. I think it's excellent idea to have this lab that urge the collaboration between the religious the religious parties in not just in Haifa but in Israel. For example, I had after May, I had this meeting in Dan Hotel, inviting all the religious parties and the head of the state. Even he was there present, and we talked about all these violence activities that we are living in, and we have signed even a document about the collaboration between the religious parties in Israel to prevent in future such acts or such things. 10 days ago, I was in Dubai for the Week of Tolerance as a group from the Foreign Ministry. We went there with 5 heads of religion, and we talked about the collaboration between us, the tolerance, respecting each other. So these issues is very, very important. The lab in the university could urge people to meet each other, to do these meetings that we are doing now, to know each others, to be at the final object to have this simple life. We don't have to be more than human beings, that respecting each other and living with each other. This is the main idea of this lab, and I'm encouraging Uriel to continue his project and the University of Haifa. I'm in. It's no problem.
Thank you very much. We are glad to have you, and I must say that Uriel is the right person because he's very active and is spending all the time promoting activities. But I would like to hear Muad. Muad, what do you say about whether this lab indeed can promote collaboration among the religious communities? Already we can see it. I mean, come on, we can see it. We are gathered here, and thanks to Uriel, to this lab. But yet, what do you think about it?
I think every platform that promote for this is, we're in, we're encouraging this. I think we need this. And actually, me and Ariel, we finished one of the sessions, this afternoon. We saw the collaboration between, and some, arguments between religious people. But I think, and I was, intrigued with one of the rabbis said it's about what we want to talk about, the content of the lab and what we do and who will run the lab. I think it's very also who will, facilitate the lab and how what we'll talk about in this lab. But at least I think the meeting, the gathering that we get together, it's a blessing thing to have, and especially for religious people. I think it's because I think every one of us here has an effect on his community, and we can, and I also get back to what I was talking in the beginning about. Also, we can, Riel, we can, to see that we can bring some other people from bring space from my community to any, a program or a meeting. And I think everybody from different people to get together, not only us as people here, 5-6 people. I think if we have more people come and see how we get together and how we talk with each other, and I think that they can learn more about, this lab and how we can live together in the city.
Thank you very much, Naama. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will add that one of the things that are important is, a few decades ago, people said religion is dead. No one says that anymore. It's very, very, very clear that religion keeps playing an important role in postmodern life. And I think that in our region, it's scary to see how religion can be so quickly and easily manipulated, and that all kinds of tensions are translated very quickly into religious wars. And the role of religious people, of religious leaders, is to say no. Religion should be a bridge for hope, for understanding, for valuing human life, for recognizing that we were all created in the divine image. And I think this is the first thing that is important, to make sure that we don't play into a political game in which religion means violence or fundamentalism. And I think that is very important. I think the other thing, as Muad said, religious leaders bring not only text and books and prayers, but also people, because we have congregations. And we need to make sure that this conversation, that these personal connections don't just stay in between religious leaders, which is a little miracle by itself, but that our congregants' friends and family get to know each other, get to meet each other, not just in the supermarket and not just in the playground, which is already happening in Haifa, and that's beautiful. But it's so easy to live next to someone and know absolutely nothing about them. And I think that the ability to speak honestly and to speak respectfully and to share the same values is a gift of that religion can bring to society. And as the Archbishop said at the beginning, we need help with vehicles, with instruments in which to fulfill the potential and make it a reality. So I think that harnessing the respect that people have for religion and the power that religion still has, and translating it to as many people as possible, really knowing their neighbors, is a beautiful thing that the lab can be very, very influential in.
Okay, thank you very much. And in continuation to what you said, I would like to ask, I would like to say that we are also fortunate in Haifa city that we have 2 academic higher education institutes, the Technion and the University of Haifa, where we can really use the academia in order to promote the knowing of the others and the dialogue between the others. So the question will be, how can we utilize higher education or academia as a helpful resource for promoting interreligious dialogue and collaboration? And Naama, again, if you could start answering the question.
I can try. I think we usually mourn the fact that so many people are educated in Haifa and don't stay in Haifa. And while that is true, when we want to spread a message, that's actually a wonderful gift, because people and students can experience shared deep living and shared respect, and then they can take this to wherever they are from the country, and sometimes even international. And I think that is something that we should treasure. The other thing is, when you go to higher education, you rethink a lot of your assumptions. You learn to think critically. You learn to think in a new lens, and things that you held true to be true from the moment you were born. And I think that we can harness that ability to think creatively, to think critically, to look again about people's assumptions, that if I am X, that means, and if you are Y, that means, and to let people experience both intellectually, but also experience meetings and shared living. And hopefully, while people develop their identity and their religious identity and their social identity, if we can be part of that, then we can make a meaningful change, not just in the families that they're going to raise, hopefully, but also wherever they will go afterwards. There's a formative years. And since we know that people come from different backgrounds, this is a wonderful opportunity to create a deep educational experience.
Thank you very much, Sayedna. How can we utilize the academia for promoting inter-religion dialogue?
First of all, I want to say that I studied in Technion, computer science, and I studied in University of Haifa, economical studies even. So before I entered the convent, I had this academic life in Technion and the University of Haifa. Being there, yes, it's an opportunity to know the other parties, know the other student, to have this relationship, not just in class, but out of class, and to have this common life with them, okay, to go out with them, to share with them their difficulties, to give them this support even for such or some students, to have this life as a student. But this life as a student will develop even in future other relationship with them. As Rabbi Na'ama said, that could this relationship could have more and more effect in future, to have even with the families, to raise our children according to these simple relationships that based on studied time. So we can be in a good relationship with each other, sharing the same difficulties, sharing the main issues, to even to go out of the campus and to live in practical life with each other. So it will be more effective that the educational institutions could be an opportunity to develop this relationship, human relationship, far away from the difficulties or the differences between each other.
Okay, thank you very much, Sayedna. Before I move to Muad, I would like to remind the audience that we have the icon of Q&A at the bottom of your screen, so you can submit your questions. So Muad, please.
Can you please repeat the question, Dr. Muna?
The question was, how can we utilize and use the higher education or academia as a helpful resource for promoting interreligion dialogue and collaboration?
I think that's what you do, or Ale and the University of Haifa. I think that's as a blessing thing to. That's you get us involved in this the life of the university and to be involved in activity that you wanna bring us to panels and discussions and all this. I think that's we can do also. I think I think also us as religious people, I think we have to be involved in the academic life also, and I think it's and we can promote things inside, and I think it's if you can bring us sometimes as guests of some Islamic studies or Jewish studies or whatever, like theological studies, as sometimes as guests, and we talk about things from a not academic, maybe like about religious or spiritual aspect of religion. I think that's can be a good platform for us to be involved in the academic life also. And that's I didn't have a really clear answer about that, but that's what I thought for them.
Thank you very much. And Uriel, how do you feel? I think you have your input, but I can say that the Haifa University is the only institute in Israel higher academia that there are holidays for students for the three religions, for Christians, Muslims, and Druze. And I think we are also fortunate to be the pioneers in this. So how do you see? How do you see the academia as a tool or platform to promote interdialogue?
Well, I'll give you a more of an academic answer if I can.
Yes, of course.
I think, well, on practical level, this is the response I often get when I talk with different religious organizations, is there is a tendency to perceive the academic, the academia, the academic people as sort of a neutral player in a social setting. We're often perceived as facilitators, as external observers. This has its pitfalls, but it also has its advantages, because as external entities, this is a source of trust. People tend to lay much trust in external figures. We have that throughout history. And so we can, as academics, play an important role when it comes to such a diverse landscape of religious communities because of our somewhat external place. At the same time, I think we should be engaged. We shouldn't be external. And we should be engaged by the fact that we can offer some of very important or useful elements to the general discussion. Namely, we can offer the wisdom that strives from comparative work, the insights that come out from analysis. We can offer theory. We can design and offer all sorts of models in which players of different religious backgrounds can start working together. And we often also can offer complex perspectives that derive from our experience of observing things and realizing that they are made of a variety of constituents. So I think academia has a very vital role in facilitating, in enriching the discussion, in breaking down labels, sometimes that are often too big, and we actually need to break things down and say, what do you really mean by that? And how can it be implemented? And we've seen that happening before. So let's try to do something different given past experiences and so forth and so on. Those are mainly my thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your insights. And as we have limited time, so we will open it for audience for Q and answer questions that we had. And I would like to remind the audience that if anyone has additional questions, you can submit to the email that will be sent shortly in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them or to address them offline. So one of the question was, which is very interesting. So communication and understanding make people feel close. It is not a secret that Jews do not learn Arabic, and the Arabs do not really know Hebrew language. So not knowing the two languages make a huge barrier. So do you have an idea how we can overcome this very critical and significant obstacle? I think it's a very important question, and we would like all to hear what you have to say, because I don't know if Rabbi Naama, you know Arabic.
Arabic? Yes, yes.
I know that Uriel knows Arabic. So I think, and of course we need to learn Hebrew in order to master, but yet the way that we acquire the Hebrew language make it a little bit distant, and it make us distant from the Jewish and Israeli culture. So how we can really overcome this obstacle? So maybe we can start with Naama.
I am like a walking joke. I can read, I can write, I can understand, but I cannot speak Arabic, which is probably exactly everything that's wrong with teaching Arabic to Jews in Israel, right? You teach the Fusha, the written language, and it's not very helpful. But truth be told, I don't get to listen. I don't get to hear Arabic, because being a majority in Haifa, everyone speaks Hebrew. The most Arabic I get is in when I come to the Maronite church every Christmas, and then I can understand and I can read. But I think that this is definitely an issue. I can say that in my synagogue we're looking into opening a group of spoken Arabic for Jews, as a way of saying this is holy work. Dialogue is holy work, is sacred work. But I think that the challenge of how do you teach languages is maybe we're not the right people to address. I think it's a very, very important question. I'm not sure that as a rabbi, except for working on my Arabic a bit more and talking about it, there's a lot I can do.
I think that as a major force of having here three Arabs, Muad, Sayyidna, and myself, I think we need, Uriel, you are mixed. So I think we have this mission in order to promote how we teach Jews Arabic. Sayyidna, what do you have to say about that?
I think this issue we can prevent by teaching 2 hours a week in our schools, Arabic or Hebrews. I think in our schools, the ecclesiastical schools that belongs to us, to the church, and the Christian communities, they teach Hebrew, English, even other languages. So it's no problem for us to speak or to practice. But I think in the statal schools or the Jews, let's say the Jews, they can teach Arabic 2 hours a week. So all the students can learn and practicing the language when they are for example in the supermarket or in the street or in the restaurant, so they can practice it. So I think it's very easy to have this instrument of teaching languages in our schools. I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Muad.
I think to promote, like to learn language, to teach language, I think we have to go to the what do you call it, Ministry of Education. I think this is the place that we can ask to, as Arabs we learn Arabic, Hebrew, English from the first grade. I think also you have to teach Arabic from first grade to the Jewish school, and to be mandatory. And I think that's and I think many kids they like, and they might like to study Arabic. Because learning the language is not about just the language. They learn like beyond the language. You know, the history, the heritage, and what's beyond all that. And I think that's what, you know, Abuna said, you know, it talks about, it's, you know, in the schools we can do that. And I think that's what even in the Ahmadiyya school in Kabir here, we had this, we had the bilingual, you know, classes, you know, have first, second, third grades of, you know, Jews and Arabs, you know, the same class, the same school. And I think we try our best to keep it, but I think, you know, sadly that we could not hold it anymore, you know, because for a space. Then we host the Yad Biyad, you know, organization for 4 years, but then we could not do that, you know, as a space to keep more longer than that. But I think that's what we have. Maybe we can, you know, bring this, you know, to the upper level of, you know, ministry, that to see if we can to teach, you know, Arabic for Jewish kids from the first or second grade.
Exactly, I agree with you. Thank you very much, Uriel. As someone speaking native, almost mother tongue at the level of mother tongue Arabic.
Well,
did this change your life, and do you feel that you are more close to the Arab population now that you understand their language also, and you can communicate?
First of all, it changed my life radically. I have my life before I was 18 and my life after I was 18. I learned Arabic when I was 18 for 9 months, 12 hours a day. I learned Arabic and I enjoyed it immensely. And I fell in love with the language and everything that has to do with the language. And since then, I use it all the time. And I can tell you that when I go to Jerusalem and I want to talk with people in Arabic, with local Arabs, they refuse to speak with me Arabic. But when I go in Haifa, and I speak with people downtown, especially, they speak with me only in Arabic. They love speaking with me in Arabic. They insist speaking with me in Arabic, and it's a wonderful experience. And that's another point to be made about the difference between Haifa and other places. Someone speaking Arabic outside Haifa may be considered who knows what, but in Haifa it's natural. But the point is, how do we cause people to learn Arabic? That's a big question. I think before thinking about the best method of how to teach it, how many hours, what sort of programs, and so we think we need to talk about motivation. Problem is that there is very little motivation to learn Arabic. And so we need to figure out how do we stimulate motivation in people to learn Arabic? And I think you stimulate motivation in people by causing them by inserting interest in their minds in the other. And you insert interest in the mind of a person in the other by creating experiences. So again, the lab that offers opportunities of people from different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds and linguistic backgrounds, will allow this. By working together, by talking with each other, by doing things, you start to think, so what is that language? And I want to know it better, and I want to be able to communicate through it. If you create that motivation, then it doesn't really matter which method you choose. The road is paved.
Thank you very much. And with this message of optimism and hope, we will move. I would like to thank you very much. Toda rabba, shukran ktir. And I would like now to move back to Steve for closing remarks. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you all for speaking today. You are the fruits of the wondrous life of Abdul Baha and so many others. And may the Holy Land be glorious again, just as the last speaker said. And I'm sure all of you know, but for those of you who don't know, that Abdul Baha will soon be laid to rest in his own glorious shrine, probably in the next year or two, and we're building it as we speak. So thank you all, and I hope those words rang true, and I think today is a wonderful reflection of that memorial from 100 years ago.
Thank you very much, and as Sayyidina said, shukran, toda, hagim smehim, happy holidays to everyone, and see you soon. Thank you very much.